UT dominates, Southside advances, and Texas needs more referees on today's TXWaterpolo Podcast. I'm James Smith in Austin, and Joe Linehan is with us via Skype. How are you?
I'm good. You?
Yeah, not too bad. So it's probably going to be a little bit abbreviated today. There's just a couple of items for us to cover. First of all is that UT, piggybacking on what we talked about last week, UT earned the second seed at CWPA's Texas Division Championships this last weekend, and Austin College is headed off to California this coming weekend for another bout of competition. But first, we want to talk about age group in the state of Texas, and Southside from Houston and North Texas Thunder from North Texas, obviously, advanced to the Champions Cup this last weekend. They played a very small round robin. Those two teams advanced, and it's essentially considered to be the 8th grade national championships. Is that a fair way to put it?
Well, the USA Water Polo Champions Cup is a national championship for USA Water Polo. So it is a national championship for 14 under / 8th grade and under athletes. They have 12 boys teams and 12 girls teams come from across the country. Teams have to qualify through their zones, and they will come to somewhere outside of California. You get to play each November.
Okay. Is it always outside California?
It's always outside. It's always been
Okay.
outside of California. So it's normally been in the Midwest area.
Mm-hmm.
So like in Chicago and Michigan and Indiana and Missouri. For a long time, this tournament was called the Speedo Cup. So this started back in the 90s. It was Stan Sprague that started. His idea was, let's make something kind of like a little league type thing where you qualify through your area and then you go to to somewhere in the center of the country to be able to play a national championship. And he envisioned everybody having their qualifying leagues that then get them qualified for the national championship. That's worked out for some zones, and they do have leagues and then championships. And other zones have just if they have enough teams, they will have a qualifying event. And that's what we did this past weekend at SMU.
Right, because there's enough demand, right? I mean, it hasn't been typical that more than a few teams want to compete from the Texas region. Is that fair?
I would have to say to let everybody know, the USA Water Polo Champions Cup in 2019 is November 8th, 9th, and 10th at the University of Houston Campus Recreation Center.
Right.
So this is the 4th time that this event has been in Texas. It was in North Texas at the Louisville ISD Westside Aquatic Center back in 2014 and 2015.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then it was down at the Conroe ISD Natatorium back in 2009. So those have been basically the times that it's been here. And whenever we have whenever the event is in Texas, we have a lot of teams that want to go.
Okay.
Because it cuts down on the cost.
Whenever
kidding. It's out of Texas, especially the last few years, we really haven't had the amount of teams that have wanted to travel.
Right.
So, but I do know back in the 2000s, there was a lot of, I brought teams from the Houston Water Polo Club that went up there. Scott Slaver, just brought teams, etc. So there has been teams from Texas that have gone, but historically, the last few years, whenever it's in Texas, the Texas teams will participate, but they haven't had as much participation, when it's out of Texas.
All right, but the round robin though was the result of 3 teams vying for 2 spots, right?
So on the boys' side this year, the Southwest Zone has 2 slots in this national event because every zone gets 1 slot and then the host zone gets 2 slots. And because the Southwest Zone is associate, we had 2 slots. We had 3 boys teams that wanted to participate. And then this past weekend, we had those 3 teams play a round robin event to see who would qualify. The 3 teams were the Southside Honey Badgers, Pegasus Water Polo Academy, and then Thunder Water Polo.
Right.
And they played 3 games, and Southside went 2-0. They beat Pegasus 19-5 in their first game, and then they beat Thunder in their second game 16-10.
Yeah.
So Southside came to play this past Sunday, and they did a great job.
Yep.
So then it came down to Pegasus and Thunder playing each other to see who could get that second slot.
Right.
and Thunder edged Pegasus 12-8.
Which is that's a great matchup. I mean, Pegasus is a pretty young club, so that well done to them, even though they didn't advance. That's great.
Yeah, and overall it was great. The Pegasus kind of hosted the games at the new SMU Natatorium. They did a great job hosting. So credit to Spencer and Nicola and their group there. Great parents, a great facility. Kind of a big credit goes to Southside and Daniel and Taylor that brought up the team for a one-day event from Houston up to North Texas and did a great job. So,
and the Texas teams that are going to go that are on the girls' side, how are they determined normally, and what's going on this year?
So this year, again, the Southwest Zone has 2 slots for the girls as well as the boys. So this year, the 2 teams that are going are the Thunder Water Polo group, and also I'm putting together a team called Lone Star Water Polo.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Then and so the Thunder Water Polo group's going to get the first seed, and Lone Star's going to get the second seed. We have a lot. There's like the number of girls playing water polo in Texas is growing at this age group, but a lot of clubs don't. They didn't have enough to compete. Let's say at a national championship. So I got on the phone and talked to a bunch of coaches and club admins, and decided that to put a team together. So we're gonna have athletes from Storm, Southside, who else is Triumph, Cy-Fair, Rockwall, and Zilla as well. So we have about from 1 to 3 athletes from each of those clubs, and there's gonna be 12 total girls that are gonna get to play. I just wanted them to. It's not every year that this event comes to Texas, so I wanted to take advantage of that.
Yeah, no, most definitely. All right, well, I told everybody this is going to be short, so we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll dive into some collegiate water polo right after this.
In many podcasts, this time would be filled with ads for electric toothbrushes or recruiting services. Not here. Instead, we're asking you to show your support for TX Water Polo by donating to it. Go to txwaterpolo.com/donate and help us continue covering the sport we love in the Lone Star State.
Hi, I'm U.S. Olympian Janai Kerr, and when I need to stay up to date with my water polo news in Texas, I listen to the TXWaterpolo Podcast.
We're back. James and Joe on the TX Water Polo Podcast. Just a few things on college water polo before we move on. First is that piggybacking on what we talked about last week when A&M finished their regular season undefeated and won the tournament up at A&M, beating UT in the final 6-5. UT went down to Rice to play in the East Division Championships this last weekend and pretty convincingly beat both Houston and Rice. And so now they are the number 2 seed at the Texas Division Championships, which are coming up pretty soon. I know that they're pretty excited about a rematch with number 1 rated Texas A&M from the state, which sounds more and more likely based on the scores that we're seeing.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be tight between A&M and UT, as it is every year. So
every year, yep. And so we'll be looking forward to that. We'll report from Rice when the division championships take place, and then the winner of that tournament goes off to Pittsburgh. What are the dates? November 15, I think.
Yeah, it's November 15, 16, 17 at the University of Pittsburgh. That's the National Collegiate Club Championships, and the Texas Division Championships are October 19th to 20th at Rice.
Oh, there you go. If you're in the area, you should go watch that. It's pretty fun. At the same time, our varsity program in the state of Texas is headed off to California. So the Austin College Kangaroos are playing at looks like a mini tournament at Cal Lutheran. It also means that we'll talk with Coach Mark Lawrence next week. But they have some pretty challenging, but some interesting games lined up that they could be very competitive. They play Cal Lutheran, which is a pretty strong team. Occidental, which has improved a great deal. And Cal Baptist, by the way, I was told today that it's not Cal Baptist, it's California Baptist University, or CBU. So, but how long has it been known as Cal Baptist? Anyway, it's hard to get that out of your mind. So they play Cal Baptist, they play Fresno Pacific, which has had some big wins this year, and Laverne, which I think is a rematch. So they're off to California for a challenging weekend.
I think it's going to be fun. I don't think. I think there's very winnable games this upcoming weekend for them. I am sure Coach Lawrence is going to be ready to go and is going to have the best group out there. I mean, I think they can beat Cal Lutheran. I think they can beat Occidental. I think they can beat Laverne. They have not played Laverne yet this year.
Okay.
They played LaSalle and earlier in the year. And
entirely different schools, yes.
Entirely different coasts. And but I mean, I think they gave Cal Baptist a scare.
Yeah.
When they played kind of earlier. So I wouldn't pass. They could go out there and win all 5 games, and I wouldn't be surprised because I think the Austin College men's team is just going to keep getting better and better each and every time they play. They haven't played for a couple of weeks, so I think they're going to be raring to go.
I think that they're way better than they have been, but I would be surprised if they came away 5-0. But you are right. I'm looking at that Laverne game in particular. I think that's one that they can really target. The issue, well, they only play once on Sunday according to the schedule, so that actually is pretty conducive to them. They could play at noon and then head home, but with only one game a day as opposed to their last tournament when they played UOP an hour after they played another team. It's quite a bit different. Okay. Just a very short note on the rest of the varsity program, which is that we talked about UC Santa Barbara maintaining that top spot, but they lost to USC this last weekend. So we're looking forward to the rankings coming out tomorrow, but it still looks like Pacific will be rated higher than them. They beat UC Davis pretty convincingly this last weekend, but it just goes to show, and I'm the one who's been rooting for UCSB or Pacific to be on top, and you're the more sober-minded person saying, hey, it's a long season, just wait, and here you are correct.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's Santa Barbara could end up on top 2 in November, so we will see. It's really who's healthy, who's eligible, our teams on a roll, etc. But I am excited. I am going to be cheering for the teams that have historically not been in the NCAA championship or the MPSF championship games and stuff. I'm be cheering for those teams. Yeah, I think it's only going to be good for the sport if a non-Big Four team kind of gets up there. So
I was just reading the story that I wrote a few years ago when UOP lost to USC, and it was among the most exciting games that I'd ever seen. And so, of course, we're rooting for that again. At least I am. Other people.
I am too.
I know there are others who like Stanford and Cal more than that. So, but yes, including Spencer Dornan. All right.
I mean, I think it's one of those things where the Big Four in water polo, it's kind of like, you either love them or hate them. It's just like the Cowboys in football, the Yankees in baseball. So there you go. Oh. And go Astros. So.
Speaking of which, all right, we're going to take another short break. Don't go anywhere.
Double team. Deflection. Ball's loose. Youstra. Ball game.
Hey, this is Mark Lawrence from Austin College, head coach of the men's and women's water polo programs and home of our Kangaroos. When I'm interested in what's going on with Texas water polo, I always listen to TXWaterpolo Podcast.
It's James and Joe wrapping up here. Joe, Texas shares something with nearly every other zone in the United States, and that is we need more referees, right? I mean, I know that there's an effort ongoing to make that happen. What is it that you can tell us about that process, and what happens when we fall short of officials in the state for the entire water polo community?
Well, I think it's not just the other zones around the country, for water polo. I think it's across sports, across youth sports.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
There's a need. I mean, there's a need for officials on all levels, on all sports. You can never have. I mean, this is my mantra. We can never have enough coaches, and we can never have enough referees. So we need to constantly be recruiting. And Texas needs more referees. Yeah. We need more referees at both the high school level and at the USA Water Polo level. And I mean, there's always the small group that'll do everything. But we can't just rely on them, especially as we continue to grow. I mean, we have now about 2,100 members in the Southwest zone in USA Water Polo. Just 2 years ago, we only had 1,300 members.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've grown a lot, and because of that, all the events have grown. There's more events, and we need more referees. So here, this is me. If you're listening to this, please get in touch with Angela Uno at Uno at usawaterpolo.org. AUNO at usawaterpolo.org. She's the primary recruiter for officials in Texas, and then she'll definitely point you in the right direction about what you need to do. But if we don't have enough refs on the pool deck, then we end up with only a single referee. And our sport is a little bit more difficult to ref than the average sport, because you only see from we're not in the field of play. Right. The refs aren't in the field of play, and they only see kind of what's above the water. And so, the more refs that we have, the less refs that we have on the pool deck, the quality of the overall sport goes down. So we just want that to, if you are interested in, and I'm talking parents, masters players, people that just graduated from high school. If you're in college, it's a great way to earn some money, some extra spending cash. Again, Angela Uno, AUNO at usawaterpolo.org. Please send her an email if you're interested.
And there's a different sort of setup for USA water polo as opposed to high school water polo slightly, but I'd imagine that Angela is going to be able to steer you one direction or the other, or both, right? If you're interested. So
the two levels, basically, like the high school season currently is in the spring. We need as many referees as we can possibly get. Angela will be, if you only want to do kind of high school, Angela will kind of point you in the right direction for that. But if you want to do USA water polo, even better, because there's year-round competitions throughout the year for USA water polo. If you want to do both, even better.
Right.
So, and I cannot stress it enough. The more refs, the better, because it's just going to keep growing and growing and growing. We talked about the number of people that are playing water polo now in the zone in Texas. Well, the number of high schools, it used to be 40 or 50 high schools about 10 years ago. We have over 150 high schools now playing again. Just multiply that by the number of games. We do have more officials than we did 10 years ago, but we are still kind of lagging behind a little bit. So please tell people, like other sports, if somebody that referees soccer or football and they want to transition and do something off season, please let them know. Please have them get in contact with Angela Uno.
I think these collegiate club players that we keep talking about could be the main target, really. Their season is relatively short, so when they're done, they're still probably practicing some, but they have time to especially during the high school season, which is in the spring. So the men complete their collegiate club season in just a couple weeks, and then the spring is wide open. Just kind of one of the best referees that is coming up in the Southwest Zone, and he referees both high school and USA water polo, is Easton Honaker from the UT men's team. Right.
He started reffing during his freshman year at UT, and he's been great. He's gone out to the National Junior Olympics. He's been refereed out there, and this is again, this is not just a Texas thing. This is around the country thing. There needs to be more referees. So if you're on the younger side and you want to referee, there's going to be opportunities, not just to referee here in Texas, but around the country.
Right.
And that is a way that a lot of people can also give back to the sport if they can't be on the pool deck coaching or what have you. So.
Right. Well, this is something we could talk about all day, because we know that it's more complicated than that. There are reasons why some people might not want to do it. And so someday we'll get into that, and then we'll talk about how to overcome those kinds of things. But we're going to get out of here. If you like what you hear, give us a good rating on whatever platform you use. Apple Podcasts is actually the best one. Give us a 5-star rating. That'd be awesome. Off the Deck, Near Side Low, and the Cross Path Podcast are all listed on our homepage. Go listen to them. And finally, we want to hear from you, so you can find us at pod@txwaterpolo.com, or on Twitter or Facebook under TXWaterpolo, and on Instagram at TX_waterpolo, and of course on the web, where we have a couple news stories to go check out about both the Champions Cup and and UT's dominance at Rice, and those are both at TXWaterpolo.com. So, Joe, thanks again for your time, of course.
Yeah, we got a lot of big stuff coming up here.
Yeah.
So everybody stay tuned for future podcasts.
Yep. Next week, we'll cover Austin College's efforts out in California. But thanks to all of you for listening and for telling a friend about the TX Water Polo Podcast. Until next week, so long from Austin.